Life has a strange way of testing people at the very moment they least expect it. These tests don't come with warning signs. They don't announce their arrival, and they don't give you the luxury of preparation. They simply arrive disguised as circumstances, sometimes as failure, sometimes as rejection, sometimes as financial hardship, sometimes as betrayal, and sometimes as deep inner confusion. And yet, what separates one person from another is not the kind of challenge that comes their way, but the choice they make when standing in front of it. You see, the test of life is never truly about the situation itself. It is always about the decision you take in the middle of that storm. Two people can go through the same financial crisis, but one will break down and give up, while the other will rise with creativity and courage. The test of life is passed not by wishing for easier problems, but by choosing wiser responses. When challenges appear, most people ask, "Why me?" That very question is a choice. It is a choice of victimhood. The moment you say, "Why me?" you have already given away your power. But the ones who pass the test ask a different question. What can I do with this? That question is the beginning of transformation. It shifts the energy from helplessness to possibility. Imagine two students sitting in a classroom. They are given the same exam paper. One panics, complains about how difficult it is, and wastes half the time. The other, though nervous, chooses to focus on one question at a time, to keep writing, to keep moving forward. At the end, the exam is not graded on the difficulty of the paper. It is graded on the answers each student chose to write. Life is exactly the same. It is not about the challenge that came. It is about the choice you made in the middle of it. Every choice you make in tough moments is shaping who you are becoming. When you choose anger, you shape yourself into bitterness. When you choose patience, you shape yourself into resilience. When you choose doubt, you strengthen fear. When you choose faith, you strengthen courage. Life's test is always hidden in these small daily decisions that look ordinary but carry extraordinary consequences. A person who constantly chooses excuses will never pass the exam of life, no matter how many resources they have. A person who constantly chooses responsibility, even in scarcity, will eventually rise above their circumstances. Think of history. The people remembered are not those who lived without problems, but those who made choices that changed the course of their lives and often the lives of others. Leaders, innovators, creators, they all faced severe tests, but instead of choosing to be crushed, they chose to find power inside those trials. The challenge itself wasn't special. What was special was the decision they made under pressure. It's not about the cards you are dealt. It's about how you choose to play them. The greatest mistake many make is to believe that success is about avoiding tests. They think if they can design life in such a way that no problem comes, they will finally be happy. But life does not work like that. You cannot avoid the tests. You can only choose your response. A person who understands this principle stops wasting energy fighting the existence of challenges, and instead pours energy into mastering their own choices. This is why some people rise out of the same ashes others are buried in. The ashes are not the defining factor. The choice is. Even in the smallest matters, life is examining your choices. When you are tempted to cut corners, to lie, to betray, to blame, these are all moments where the invisible exam paper is placed before you, and your choice becomes the answer you are writing. No one else may see it, but life sees it. Over time, the sum total of these choices becomes your destiny. Every little decision accumulates into a character, and your character is what determines whether you pass or fail the larger tests of life. This is why people who blame circumstances rarely move forward. They think the test was unfair, but the truth is the test was never about the situation. It was about the decision. You may not control how heavy the rain falls, but you do control whether you seek shelter, whether you dance in it, or whether you let it drown you. You may not control who betrays you, but you do control whether you become bitter or wiser because of it. That is the test. Passing the test of life is never about the weather outside. It is about the climate inside your mind. And here is the deeper secret. Every time you make a choice, you are strengthening a pattern. Make a weak choice once, and it may feel small, but repeat it, and it becomes a habit. Habits eventually become your identity. On the other hand, making strong choices in the middle of difficulty builds resilience, and resilience becomes confidence, and confidence becomes unshakable character. Over time, the exams of life no longer terrify you because you realize they are simply opportunities to demonstrate the choices you've been preparing for all along. Would you like me to now expand key point 2 in the same 700-word deep motivational style? Just as the body suffers when it is fed with substances that weaken it, the mind and spirit also suffer when we keep consuming what does not serve our growth. People often believe the only thing that harms them is what they eat or drink, but the truth is far deeper. The things we consume mentally, emotionally, and spiritually are far more dangerous because they silently shape the direction of our lives. Imagine putting cheap refined oil into a fine machine. Over time, the machine begins to clog, lose efficiency, and eventually break down. The same principle applies to life. When you keep feeding your mind with negativity, gossip, fear, doubt, and self-pity, you are clogging the very engine that is designed to create your future. Passing the test of life requires you to become conscious of what you are consuming, not just with your mouth, but with your thoughts, with your time, and with your attention. Most people don't realize how much poison they are consuming every day. They scroll through hours of meaningless news that fills them with fear. They listen to conversations that reinforce limitation. They watch others succeed and immediately compare themselves, planting seeds of jealousy. They replay their failures again and again in their minds until those failures become an identity. This is no different than continuously pouring something toxic into your body. Eventually, the system breaks down. The test of life comes when you are asked to choose. Will you keep feeding your mind with weakness, or will you start nourishing it with strength? It is not enough to avoid physical toxins if you are still willing to digest mental ones. You can always tell the quality of someone's inner consumption by the quality of their outer life. A person who constantly consumes excuses, negativity, and doubt will reflect it in the way they walk, the way they speak, and the way they face adversity. On the other hand, someone who deliberately consumes knowledge, hope, vision, and discipline carries a different energy. Their life may not be perfect, but their spirit radiates strength. The difference is not luck, it is consumption. Life is testing you every single day by asking, what are you choosing to put inside your mind? Think about the way unhealthy oil damages the body. It doesn't happen immediately. It's a slow process, hidden, silent, until one day the damage becomes too large to ignore. The same is true with consuming weakness. People think one negative conversation won't matter, one day of complaining won't matter, one excuse won't matter. But repeated over weeks, months, and years, it creates a toxic buildup that eventually explodes in the form of broken dreams, wasted years, and a defeated spirit. Just as health experts tell you to avoid substances that silently destroy your body, the wisdom of life is telling you to stop feeding your mind with weakness that silently destroys your destiny. The test of life is not about whether negativity exists around you. It always will. The real test is whether you choose to consume it. You can be surrounded by people who are bitter, yet refuse to let their bitterness enter your spirit. You can be in an environment of fear, yet choose to feed your mind with courage. Passing the test is not about eliminating the presence of weakness in the world, but about refusing to invite it into your inner world. That choice is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. This principle extends into habits as well. What do you consume in your free time? Do you consume entertainment that numbs your mind or information that stretches it? Do you consume conversations that shrink your vision or relationships that expand it? Do you consume stories of limitation or stories of possibility? Every choice you make is either strengthening or weakening you. The exam of life is written in these moments where no one is watching, but your future is being shaped. To pass the test, you must treat your mind like a sacred place. You must guard it as carefully as a person guards their health. Just as a wise individual reads the labels before putting food into their body, a wise soul examines the source of every thought, every conversation, every influence before allowing it to settle. Inside, this is not about being fearful of the world. It is about being intentional with your choices, because your mind is the factory of your future, and what you allow inside will eventually determine what is produced outside. There is a direct connection between inner consumption and outer resilience. A person who feeds on courage, wisdom, and clarity may face the same storm as everyone else, but they respond differently. Instead of crumbling, they endure. Instead of complaining, they create. Instead of surrendering, they strengthen. It is not the storm that destroyed the others. It was the weakness they had been consuming long before the storm arrived. And it is not the storm that made the strong survive. It was the strength they had been nourishing long before the storm came. Would you like me to move forward and expand key point 3 into a 700-word motivational flow as well? You said, expend KY point 3 without any heading in 700 words. Don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy, ChatGPT said. Every obstacle that shows up in life is like a puzzle wrapped in disguise. At first glance, it looks like a barrier meant to stop you, but hidden inside is a lesson that can only be discovered if you have the courage to dig deeper. Most people see the surface of their problems and stop there. They look at the loss of a job, the failure of a business, the betrayal of a friend, or the weight of financial struggle, and immediately declare that life is unfair. They curse the obstacle, they resist it, they fight it, but they rarely pause long enough to ask, what is this here to teach me? That single shift in perspective is the difference between a person who grows stronger through challenges and a person who gets broken by them. Life never throws random difficulties. Every obstacle is a message, a teacher, a test paper placed in front of you to measure whether you are ready to step into the next stage of your life. If you run from it, you repeat the same lesson later, often in a harsher form. But if you lean into it, If you ask the right questions and look for the hidden wisdom, you rise above it, transformed. Think about it. When was the last time you truly grew from something easy? Ease comforts you, but it rarely stretches you. It is the obstacle that forces you to develop skills you never knew you had, to find patience you never thought possible, to discover strengths you didn't believe lived within you. Picture a seed. For that seed to grow into a tree, it must push through the darkness of the soil, break through the hard crust of the earth, and rise into the light. Without that struggle, the seed never becomes a tree. In the same way, without obstacles, human beings never realize their true capacity. The obstacle is not against you, it is for you. It is designed to bring out something inside that comfort could never reach. When you begin to see problems this way, you stop fearing them and start respecting them as teachers. Every great story of achievement carries within it a chapter of obstacles. Inventors faced failure after failure before creating breakthroughs. Leaders walked through rejection before gaining influence. Artists endured criticism before they found appreciation. Entrepreneurs survived collapse before building empires. The lesson is always the same. The obstacle did not come to destroy them, it came to prepare them. Each difficulty contained a hidden gift that could only be unwrapped by persistence, patience, and perspective. The people who discovered the lesson advanced, and the people who ignored it stayed trapped. The danger is that most people quit before they unwrap the gift. They face a problem, they feel the discomfort, and they immediately back away. They think the presence of struggle means they are on the wrong path, when in reality it often means they are exactly where they need to be. Obstacles are a sign that you are growing, that you are moving beyond the limits of the old version of yourself. If life were always smooth, you would never need to evolve. The very presence of resistance means you are being invited to rise to another level. The test is whether you will accept that invitation or retreat into the familiar. Consider how muscles grow. They do not grow by lying still. They grow by being challenged, by lifting weight, by experiencing resistance. Without resistance, they remain weak. In the same way, your character, your wisdom, your resilience are muscles of the spirit. They only grow when faced with obstacles. Every time life hands you a challenge, it is handing you an opportunity to build inner strength. If you refuse the challenge, you stay weak. If you embrace it, you grow powerful. This is the hidden lesson behind every obstacle. It is shaping you for the future you cannot yet see. Even the most painful experiences hold hidden meaning if you choose to search for it. The loss of something you valued may teach you the importance of gratitude. The betrayal of trust may teach you the value of discernment. The failure of a plan may teach you the art of persistence or the need for a new strategy. Nothing arrives without a purpose, but the purpose is not obvious on the surface, it is buried within. And the only way to uncover it is to stop resisting the obstacle and start asking what it is trying to give you. People who master this perspective live with a different energy. While others complain, they analyze. While others collapse, they rise. While others say, "This is the end," they say, "This is the beginning of something new." That mindset does not make obstacles disappear, but it changes how you experience them. It turns every setback into training, every failure into feedback, every loss into preparation for a greater gain. The same obstacle that breaks one person can build another, depending on whether the lesson inside is discovered or ignored. Would you like me to expand key point 4 in the same 700-word motivational depth and rhythm? The mind is the most powerful refinery in existence, more powerful than any machine ever created, more transformative than any physical process known to man. Just as crude oil passes through a refinery to be separated, purified, and turned into something of greater value, your thoughts and experiences also pass through the refinery of your mind. The raw material of life arrives in all shapes, some positive, some negative, some inspiring, some discouraging, some filled with joy, others loaded with pain. On their own, these raw materials have no fixed meaning. It is the mind that decides what they will become. You can take the raw experience of failure and refine it into wisdom, or you can let it remain crude and let it pollute your future with bitterness. You can take the raw material of rejection and refine it into resilience, or you can leave it unprocessed and carry it as a wound that poisons your confidence. The test of life is never about what you receive, but about how you refine what you receive. When you begin to see your mind as a refinery, you realize that everything that enters it is raw input. A harsh word from someone can either be refined into motivation to prove your worth or left unrefined, turning into self-doubt. A financial setback can be refined into creativity and innovation or left unrefined, hardening into hopelessness. The same raw experience produces completely different outcomes depending on how you process it. This is why two people can go through the same event, but one emerges stronger and wiser while the other collapses. The difference is not in the event, but in the refinery of the mind. Your mind does not automatically refine everything in a positive way. It must be trained, just like a refinery must be properly designed and managed to produce valuable fuel. Left unchecked, the mind will often take negative experiences and magnify them, turning small problems into giant obstacles, small fears into overwhelming terror, small doubts into paralyzing beliefs. This is why you must consciously take control of your mental refinery. You must learn to interrupt the automatic reactions and choose a higher interpretation. It takes awareness, discipline, and repetition to master this, but once you do, you hold the key to transforming any raw experience into something that serves your growth. Think of people who have faced extreme adversity yet turned it into inspiration. They did not have easier lives, they had stronger refineries. They trained their minds to extract meaning, to purify negativity, to convert pain into purpose. That process is available to anyone who decides to take responsibility for their mental refinery. No experience, no matter how painful or raw, has the power to define you unless you allow it to pass through your mind without refining it. The moment you step in and decide to process it differently, you change its effect on your life. A refinery is also selective. It discards impurities. Your mind must operate the same way. Not every thought deserves to stay. Not every influence deserves a home inside your head. Just as refined oil is separated from waste, you must separate empowering beliefs from destructive ones. When a thought of fear enters, you refine it into caution and wisdom instead of panic. When a thought of anger arises, you refine it into clarity and boundary setting instead of rage. When a thought of envy appears, you refine it into inspiration instead of resentment. This is conscious refinement, and it is what allows you to pass the tests of life that overwhelm those who leave their minds unguarded. The beauty of this refinery is that it works with repetition. Every time you choose to refine a negative thought into a positive outcome, you strengthen your ability to do it again. Over time, the refinery becomes more efficient. Challenges that once crushed you no longer hold the same weight because your mind has learned to process them quickly and effectively. What once seemed like the end of the world becomes fuel for growth. And the more you practice, the more you begin to trust yourself. You begin to realize that nothing coming your way has the power to destroy you unless you give it that power by refusing to refine it. Even memories of the past, no matter how heavy they are, can be put through the refinery. Many people carry unrefined experiences from years ago, still allowing them to poison the present. But the moment you revisit those experiences with the intention of refinement, you can extract wisdom, forgiveness, and strength from them. Instead of being defined by what happened, you become defined by how you processed what happened. The refinery of the mind has the power to rewrite the meaning of your entire past and shape a future that aligns with who you are becoming. Life will always hand you crude experiences. It is unavoidable. You cannot control the arrival of pain, loss, failure, or disappointment. But you can control whether these experiences remain crude or become refined. That is the essence of passing the test of life. It is not about avoiding raw materials. It is about mastering the art of refining them into something that fuels your journey instead of blocking it. The refinery is within you, always working, always ready. The choice is whether you take charge of it or leave it on autopilot.